That was a clip from Till, the new movie from Chinonye Chukwu, which is in cinemas now. Every January, I've got a few different rituals, as we all do when it comes to the new year kicking in. So for me, things that scream January to me are stuff like the World Dart Championship final. If for wrestling fans, they'll know about New Japan Wrestle Kingdom is always on the 4th of January. I traditionally get fat enough over Christmas to go back to the gym. It's the start of the NFL playoffs. And also another tradition that I have on January's is I have to watch movies about how horrific America's racial history was. That's not to be glib about a serious subject, but the point is that this happens in January because it's award season, and these movies unashamedly exist for the purpose of giving those involved a shot at awards as educating America on its awful, awful past. So because it's a serious subject, I think it's important we hold movies like this to account to tell their stories well and not feel pressured to praise them because the source material is so stark. With that said, Till is a really uneven movie about a seriously compelling true story that makes it worth watching on balance, but almost laughable at other times. The story tells of Mamie Till Bradley and her son, Emmett Till, who she calls Bo. He's a black 14-year-old Chicago-born teenager that's largely been shielded from racism, who goes on a trip to visit family who picked cotton in 1955 Mississippi. Without spoiling for those who don't know the true story, even though the kind of inspiration for it is one of, if you know a lot of information about the American Civil Rights Movement, the picture that came of it is one of the most iconic pictures that kind of turned the balance of the Civil Rights Movement and opened a lot of eyes to it. But suffice to say, if you don't know the true story, it is not a feel-good movie about an amazing summer holiday in 1950s Mississippi. So first off, let's start with the problems. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to rip the plaster off on this, even though it mightn't be popular or necessarily a nice thing to say. The performance of Bo isn't very likable. I feel that they read he was like such a happy child who loved music, dancing and performing, and just made him into an overconfident Billy Barry type kid. You know, the type who performs on the toy show who are just way too confident that they're actually a bit annoying. And that's not to say that what ends up happening is any less horrific as a result. But the problem is that at one point, Mamie turns around and says to one character, "You didn't know this was going to happen." And all you can think watching it is, how didn't you know this was going to happen? Because this movie just tends to move from racist incident to racist incident. It doesn't seem concerned exploring stuff like why characters make the decisions they do. We don't actually get an explanation for the basic questions like, why did Mamie let Bo travel without her to a place she knew was incredibly dangerous for him? I'm sure in real life, there was probably very good reasons. We know from what she went out and did in the aftermath of all that happened that Mamie is a very intelligent and switched on person. So I'm sure she had her reasons, but the clip that you heard there at the start is the entire discussion around what turns out to be a very important question. Till just has no time to explore it because it seems in a rush to get to the more harrowing stuff so that they can put on award show reels. If you don't get into the whys, though, you become very aware that this is a movie and start to get cynical. This undermines the actors' performances because if they're pushing themselves to their limits, but the film itself is making that seem ironic, it comes across as, okay, 1, 2, 3, and wail inconsolably. And if you're sensing frustration here, that's because there's really compelling stuff in here too. Danielle Deadwyler's powerhouse performance of Mamie deserves awards consideration, particularly for a hugely powerful one-shot scene that the movie builds up to and absolutely delivers on. But instead of taking time to ensure that the story was told as effectively as possible, it feels like there was either a rush to get it out in time for award season, or they just felt like they had all the boxes already ticked. These stories do deserve spotlight. It's important that they're told, particularly today, and particularly to an America who recently elected a man who rubbed shoulders with known KKK associates to the presidency. But it's important that they're told with the right motivations and priorities in mind so that they're effective and not just to garnish the walls of those who make them with gold.